Hi everyone, welcome to Business on Joy News Prime. Now, Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, Ishmael Ejekumhene, has urged government to focus its petroleum expenditure on priority areas. Stakeholders have lamented the poor handling of oil-funded projects without adherence to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Mr. Ejekumhene says government's approach must change in 2018 to check mismanagement.
I think it has to do with the way we have decided as a country to use the petroleum revenue for the past 5 years. Even when I was on PIAC and since I was consulting for them, it was always coming up that we were not focusing the expenditure on priority areas, and there were too many areas that were trying to spend the money, and that was affecting the impact of the oil money. So I think going forward in 2017, of course, because the money wasn't enough and a chunk of it was also going to the free SHS, I think we didn't spend the money on too many areas. I think we should, and consistently, what we've been telling the government is that let's decide on what we have been calling legacy projects. If it's a new airport that we want to build with the oil money, let's do that. If it's a railway line we want to build or use the money to develop the railway line from Accra to Paga, let's do that so that everybody can go to this project and say that this is how we spend the oil money. At the moment, we are not doing that, and that's why we are not seeing the impact. I think going into the new year, I hope we'll be able to focus the expenditure on top priority areas so that we will see the impact of oil revenue.
And I'm sure And while still on oil matters, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, has asked government to expedite action on the planned decommissioning of the Sulphur oil field in the central region. The oil field is not generating enough revenue for the state as compared to the investment put in by the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. This was part of recommendations by the committee in its 2017 semi-annual report. Ebenezer Sabute has more.
Ghana's oldest oil field, the Sulphur oil field managed by the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, has been inefficient since 2015. PIAC's recommendation for the field to be closed is because its operation costs far exceed revenues accrued by the field. Sulphur oil field produced about 41,000 barrels of oil in 2014, which is 30,000 barrels less than the total production of the previous year. There has, however, been no production since the third quarter of 2015. The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, is calling on the government to expedite action on the planned decommission of the Sulphur oil field in the central region. Dr. Steve Mantial is a member of the PIAC.
The need for GNPC to continue maintaining a skeletal staff on the Sulphur oil field without any active production going on there. We know that if you're not producing and yet you are paying people, of course it will have a certain effect on the overall overhead cost. And this is what is happening. And the recommendation we've made to government is to expedite action in terms of the decommissioning of the Sulphur oil fields to avoid the unnecessary costs being incurred in maintaining staff on the rig.
Dr. Mantial also hinted that PIAC will be investigating the cause of high wage bill of the country's petroleum exploration company, GNPC, which has become a worry to the Finance Committee of Parliament.
I guess we'll have to look at the figures again and make a few inquiry in terms of what accounted for salary increases in this wage bill. Of course, the documents, whatever we do as PIAC, we do on the basis of documentation. And so we need to look at the document and ask GNPC to explain what happened. But we'll not necessarily invite. We can go to GNPC and seek all these clarifications.
So will we investigate it?
Yeah, it's something PIAC would like to do because we don't want to leave it hanging the way it is.
The committee has also called on the Ministry of Finance to make disclosure of all oil-funded projects in the country.
Turning attention to the aviation sector, and Consumer Unit and Trust Society CAS Ghana has impressed on the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority the need to fast-track the implementation of the Consumer Protection Directive that would guard the interests of airline passengers. The directive, as approved under the Montreal Convention of 1999, covers passengers' rights and protection. We'll hear from the Center Coordinator in a bit, but first, the incident that is sparking this conversation. 3 Ghanaian passengers who say they were assaulted and abused by staff of TAP Air Portugal. Sheila Tamaklo has the rest of the story.
The 3 Ghanaian women who were heading to Sao Tome had purchased their flight tickets 4 months ago. Initial reports had it that they were asked to vacate their seats for Caucasian passengers because the flight was overbooked. Having resisted the ejection from the flight, the 3 women were subsequently allegedly assaulted and dragged out of the boarding area by some security officials.
You're telling me I can't fly. It's not quite normal. You can't touch me. So don't touch me.
The victims have since lodged a complaint of assault against the security officials as well as officials of the airline at the airport police station.
We finished with the check-in, then on Saturday we went to the airport to get our boarding passes. So we just proceeded with the departure formality, went through immigration, did everything and went to our gate, which is gate 2, to wait for boarding. Then I was there with my sister and Evelyn when the TAP official sent one of their staff to come and call Evelyn and myself that they needed us downstairs. So we got there, then Georgia said, "Madam, we have an issue. There's been an incident of overbooking and we would have to drop Evelyn and you." So I firmly declined and told Georgia, "No, I'm not going to agree. You should have told me that before you issued me a boarding pass."
There were 4 security guys there, and then I think 4 TAP officials also in presence before the foreigners, and they said they were not letting us enter. So they started pushing Ifa, even though she had their ticket and everything. They started pushing her. So I took out my phone. I was going to record what was happening to both of them, and then one security guy just held my neck and pushed me on a metal chair right behind me. He was struggling to take the phone out of me so that I won't record. So I gave him the phone. I had another phone in my bag. I took that one out and I said, "We need evidence because we know that this thing, if we don't film something, then they're going to use their word against us and call us liars."
TAP Air Portugal has issued an apology letter on the incidents and assured that proper investigations will be carried out. However, the victims insist they will pursue the suit.
Well, Center Coordinator of Consumer Unit and Trust Society, KITE Ghana, Pierre Kusiad-Marco, says incidents like what you just saw call for the speedy implementation of the Consumer Protection Directive. He has been shedding more light on this directive.
Regulation is about the domestication of the Montreal Protocol, which was passed in 1985. And so we are almost 23 years behind in terms of implementing it. The regulation looks at denied boarding. That is when you pay for your flight and then you are denied boarding because of overbooking. It also looks at your delays. Let's say, for example, if the aircraft delays for more than certain hours, the passenger is required for compensation. Everybody on board that flight is required for compensation, and as well as your luggage. If you lose your luggage or your luggage even delays, you are also required for compensation when the regulation comes into play.
All right, and that's it for business. Thanks for watching. Much more news after the break.